Welcome everyone to another episode of Chad Sports Talk. So, my name's Chad. Take a dive on all sports. This is kind of like an impromptu, not really impromptu, but this is more of a quick recap of the bowls before we do the preview of the College Football Playoff National Championship from Indianapolis on Monday. But before we kind of recap those earlier bowl games, if you could, go ahead and smash that thumbs for me, especially if you like this content. Helps really the algorithms, pleases YouTube guys, and helps promote this channel. You can also subscribe. Check my analytics. I have a lot of y'all reviewing my work, and I love y'all for doing that. Not many of you subscribe, but it doesn't cost you a dime. It helps me provide more content for your sports entertainment purposes. Now, looking at the past weeks of college, the bowl seasons, we've seen a lot of strange stories. We've seen players opt out. We've seen players stay in and get injured. So that could affect their draft prospect. So you got that whole scenario kind of going in there, and then of course the national debate about the playoffs. Should it expand? If it expands, how many? Are we think the two that are still left are legit, or is it more towards a good old buddy system? There's so many different stories kind of floating in there, but let's go ahead and go the first week of those bowl season. That first week of bowl games was really, normally your group of 5 schools mainly playing in these bowl games, which is from December 17th to the 22nd. I went 10-2 in those games. Felt pretty good. There's a couple of them that I was kind of shocked, especially App State's loss in the Boca Raton Bowl to Western Kentucky. I didn't expect that one. And same thing with the Bahamas Bowl. I thought the running game would be a little bit better than Middle Tennessee's defense, but apparently the defense won that game. So started off a little rough, but then we go to the second week, which was the 23rd all the way to the 29th. That's where things got interesting. The Hawaii Bowl got canceled when Hawaii pulled out at the last second. So Memphis had no team to play. During that time frame, we also heard about the day prior, we found out Texas A&M would not be going to the Gator Bowl, and then the Gator Bowl officials then picked Rutgers. And then we found out about the Hawaii Bowl. Then later on, the Military Bowl, BC couldn't participate, so they had to pull out and leave East Carolina out. But because Memphis is one side of the country, it cost them more to go fly all the way out to Annapolis to play East Carolina, so those two didn't hook up. And then later on, pretty much just hours prior to kickoff, UCLA pulled out against NC State, and which irked NC State because they had no idea. There was no inclination from, as they stated, from UCLA that they had any type of issues whatsoever. And they were disappointed they couldn't find anyone to replace it. I think by that time frame, Memphis has already traveled back home, because I think they would have been a perfect one to pull them from Hawaii to San Diego. But they're already on their way home. So no other school really wanted to make that trip across the country, because right now you had, Memphis, East Carolina, were both, Memphis is back home, East Carolina's on the East Coast. And then if you look at the Fenway Bowl, Virginia pulled out against SMU. So the Fenway Bowl, once again, 2 years in a row, that hasn't really debuted yet. So NC State was a little upset they couldn't get anyone. I'm just glad they didn't do another 5-7 school being added. That's just been detrimental to the bowls. But despite all those cancelizations on that second week, I went 7-4. Something did not definitely go the way I anticipated them to go. Especially Western Michigan's manhandling of Nevada in the Quick Lane Bowl. I definitely didn't see that one. I did call the Houston win over Auburn, so I'm quite happy about that. Oh yeah, and Maryland's thumping of Virginia Tech in the Pinstripe Bowl, definitely didn't call that one. So, with those aspects, those bowl games, that was kind of like my typical week of, my college football picks and predictions. But it's the third week where you had all the major bowls. So December 30th all the way to January 4th. I went 7-7. That's right. I was Notre Dame. I could not perform under pressure in the big game and coughed up the lead. That's right. Notre Dame had a lead against Oklahoma State and just let them come back. Unfortunately, I couldn't watch it. I was busy doing other things, and I really wanted to. A lot of those games, did not see how they went. The Music City Bowl, Tennessee got shafted. That was a touchdown, by the way. So Purdue shouldn't have won that one, but I picked Purdue, so I was kind of happy in that aspect. But yeah, that was definitely a wrong pick. Pitt blew a big lead against Michigan State in the Peach Bowl. Without Pickett, Pitt was doing extremely well, but Michigan State was able to make a fourth quarter comeback to win that one, which helped me out. We saw Boise State pull out of the Arizona Bowl. Also, Miami pulls out the Sun Bowl, and with the Sun Bowl, I guess, being a bigger bowl, Central Michigan slid over to replace Miami and then beat Washington State. So I definitely didn't see that one. I think Central Michigan do that, but Washington State does tend to have problems against those group of five schools. The playoffs, yep, I picked Alabama to beat Cincinnati. I thought this was going to make it a little bit closer than what they did. Alabama definitely didn't, run away with it, but they won very convincingly. And Georgia's manhandling of Michigan, I didn't see that one coming either. I was picking Michigan, mainly because I don't want to see Alabama and Georgia again. I really think those two should have faced off in the semifinal rounds of the championship game, so to avoid another SEC repeat of an all-SEC championship game. But, that's just, say Michigan's 1, Alabama's 2, said Alabama 1, Michigan 2. There's, debate about that one. I see why Alabama was picked, because they beat the number 1 team in the country. But Michigan, I think, beat better opponents. But that's just my personal opinion. I already mentioned about the Notre Dame fiasco. Arkansas just took it to Penn State in the Outback. Messed up my picks there. Baylor beat Ole Miss. I didn't think that was going to happen. But of course, losing Carroll to an injury really helped that one out. Instead of Carroll opted out of the Sugar Bowl like most other draft prospects have done, like Pickett and Walker out of Michigan State. So I see why they do it. I really do. And head coaches leave before the bowl game, so why can't the players opt out? And then the Texas Bowl, I thought LSU could win, but hey, I think I was just kind of pipe dreaming on that one. So that's how the bowls went. Like I said, it started off great and then just failed at the end, like the Irish. Can't say that about Michigan. I mean, they didn't even start the game right. But that's right, January 10th from Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana, you will have number 1 Alabama taking on number 3 Georgia, a repeat of the SEC championship game. Third time in all SEC final. This is going to be Alabama's looking for their 7th title in 13 years. Unprecedented a run that Alabama's been doing. Georgia's trying to get their first title since 1980, back when they had Herschel Walker. So it's been a long time for the Bulldogs to get back to the mountaintop. They keep getting so close and just getting knocked off. And with this one, this is definitely going to be a very hard game to really kind of pick to see who will win. I think right now the odds are towards Georgia. Once again, Georgia is favored. I don't think no one remembered the SEC championship game in which Alabama was not was the underdog, and they came in there and beat them. So you have that. So yeah, right now at the recording of this video, Georgia has a 2.5 advantage over Alabama. There's a lot of things that Georgia has to kind of remember from when they faced off previously, because they could not do anything to really instill confidence in their abilities to compete on the national level. It's like Georgia and Kirby Smart just all of a sudden just fell apart against, Alabama. I mean, it was just Nick Saban always seems to get the best of his kids to perform at the highest level, especially when the game's counted. The Alabama's defense stifled Bennett throughout that game, in the championship game, forcing him to throw 2 interceptions, and they end up sacking him 3 times, which Georgia could not do. With Bryce Young, he's definitely one of these quarterbacks you cannot give him time, because that offensive line gave Bryce Young so much time. The last time they faced off, he had over 400 yards, 3 TDs, and the rushing attack was decent. I mean, they had 115 yards overall compared to Georgia's 109, so that really helped out, especially in the almost a 4.5 yard advantage per carry. But it was that secondary of both schools actually that were shown to be susceptible to big plays, and if you give Bennett enough time, he can find his targets. I mean, he found Bowers 10 times in that championship game for 139 yards. So you definitely have that aspect going in there, that the secondaries are not going to be the focal point. It's going to be the battle of the trenches. It's about the big boys on the line. Can Georgia's offensive line enforce their will and to protect Bennett, to give him the time so he can get those accurate passes? Or is it the Alabama offensive line protecting Bryce Young, the Heisman Trophy winner, for him to do the exact same thing and just obliterate the Georgia secondary? Because Alabama was able to handle Cincinnati's very good secondary quite well. So there was no question about it. Bryce Young didn't have a lot of yards in the air, but he did have 3 touchdowns. So if you look at it that way, he did what he had to do in the air, and Brunswick just couldn't do anything against Alabama's defense, even though he had no touchdowns, he had no interceptions. But getting sacked 6 times will kind of hamper any type of offense whatsoever. And that was the key. That was that front line again. That defense did its job against Cincinnati. Of course, everyone's going to say Cincinnati's a lesser opponent, but they definitely was one of these teams that you had to watch out for, because there's a reason why they were undefeated, regardless of who they played. They did go in the South Bend and beat Notre Dame. They did have big matchups against other opponents, especially Houston, another dangerous team that beat Auburn, remember, this year. So, and then looking at the Georgia's what they did against Michigan. I mean, they went up early against Michigan. It wasn't even close, 27-3 at the half. They were just dominating them throughout the game, and it was basically just the aerial attack. And Cook had 100 yards receiving. So now with terms of that, I mean, Ben was able to get 300 yards passing with 3 touchdowns. Well, McNamara couldn't do anything except throw 2 picks. I mean, they did everything they possibly could, even forcing turnovers, fumbles. And, Aiden Hutchinson was pretty much nullified in this game. I mean, you talking about, he was the Heisman candidate coming out of Michigan, defensive end. Because very, very often you get defensive guys in there, and they had no sacks. Georgia had 4 sacks, so it's definitely, can Georgia's defense reemerge from itself? Take the momentum they had against Michigan and apply it to Alabama, or can Alabama, build upon the what they created against Cincinnati, what they've done against Georgia and Atlanta? Can they carry that into Indy for a chance for another national championship definitely, the greatest coach, I think, in college football in modern times. I think he's going to knock off Bear Bryant as the all-time best coach in Alabama history. Bear Bryant had a very long-standing career and very dominant when it came to college football. So, he's definitely one of these coaches that you really have to put on that mountaintop, the Mount Rushmore of the best coaches, college football coaches ever. Nick Saban's going to be on there. I mean, that's just matter of fact. And so this was a really hard one to kind of pick. I know everything points towards Georgia, but Georgia seems to struggle against Alabama when the game counts, when everything is on the line. And it's just one of these things I do not see that they will be able to duplicate what they did against Michigan, against Alabama. I think it's just Alabama. They just come to play when it comes to the big games. They may, lay an egg once or twice during a season. Then that's what happened against A&M. They just got caught short in that one. And Jimbo Fisher right now is the only assistant to have beaten his former boss. And Kirby Smart seems to be owned by Nick Saban. And same thing with Georgia, seems to be owned by Alabama. And though everything points towards Georgia, momentum's pouring towards Georgia, I got to give it to the Tide. There is just something about Nick Saban being able to coach in the big games, to do what he gets out of his kids, get out, these young men to perform at their highest level. I mean, Alabama right now is the modern day dynasty of college football. There's no question about that. They're the most dominant school out there. They're always going to be ranked in the top. This is just one of these programs that they put on the pads every Saturday and they come out to play. And I don't see this changing at all against Georgia. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than it was in Atlanta. But I think Alabama's going to find ways to protect Young. Once again, stifle that Georgia defense and give Young the time he needs to make those accurate throws that he is known to do. He might start off slow. It may look like Georgia will lead early. I'm thinking Georgia will lead early, but then Alabama's going to come back and just do what they have to do and hold off a late Georgia comeback. But I think Alabama's going to win. I think it's probably be like that Alabama-Florida game. I mean, Florida came back, but Alabama was able to hold on. So it's going to go with that direction. But yeah, I'm taking Alabama to win the national title. And it's just that kind of leads to the question: should the college football playoff expand, go beyond these 4 teams? Should it just expand early? Whatnot? I've already done one covering the 12-team format, which was one that was proposed, and then come up with the teams that would be in that one. How they all set up, and I really like that idea. It gives because look, the Big 12 and the Pac-12, they've had 6 combined. They've had 6. I mean, the Big Ten that themselves has beaten them both combined, the number of teams in the playoffs. Would this change the fact that SEC is once again has the top 2 both teams in the college in the final? No. It's just other conferences are going to have to come out and be able to beat the big boys. The top dogs at SEC, they got to find ways to duplicate what A&M did. Find ways how Auburn did in years past. It's just one of these things that you have to be able to come around and find a way to be able to beat a team, step up, eat your Wheaties, take your Flintstone vitamins, and come up and lay the smack down on them. And it can happen, yes. I mean, with the expanded field, you get more opportunities for other schools. You saw Notre Dame get in. They'll probably play a little bit differently. They probably do the exact same thing again. Have a lead and then cough it up. I'm an Irish fan. I can say that. I mean, that's just how they are. You get Ohio State in, Utah, Pitt. You got all these other schools you can throw in there to kind of, get the field going, because you're going to have, of course, your 6 conference champions. So that means, it's going to be Alabama. It's going to be Pitt. It's going to be Michigan. It's going to be Baylor. It's going to be Utah. It's going to be Cincinnati. And then your 6 at large, that's, it's Georgia. That's Notre Dame. That's Ohio State. Those right off the get. So, it's just, what you kind of have to look at. And I really think that will happen. It will happen soon, probably towards the end of the agreement. So they'll redo that once. I think it's 2026. And I think it's going to be 12. Just got to work out some kinks. I did come up one where they did, the FBS utilizes the FCS system. You can check that video out too. It was a little fun little, thing to kind of put together. And, well, there you go. There's a recap of how I did. I'm getting 24 wins out of the bowls. And in my opinion, it's way too many bowl games, but that's just me. And picking Alabama to win the title once again. I was looking forward to Nick Saban finally retiring and get somebody else on the mountaintop. I really do, or somebody just be able to beat Alabama. Got to find that magic here. But anyways, hey, let me know what you think. Who's going to win? It's that. Do you believe the playoffs should be expanded? If so, how many and when? That's a good question as well. You can also hit that thumbs up for me, especially like this content. You can also subscribe. Once you subscribe, you hit that bell notification. Until next time I post a video, and I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.